Ribeiro-Addy.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. With all of the crises we're facing in our country, it speaks volumes that the first bill of a new parliament is yet another piece of authoritarian anti-protest legislation. The message from this government is clear. Its top priority is making it harder to protest the cost of living crisis, not actually helping people through it. The government has already introduced some of the most serious and sweeping restrictions on the right to protest with their Policing, Crime Sentencing and Courts Act, and this bill just takes the assault on our rights one step further by reviving many of the other failed measures that were rightly thrown out in the other place. Restricting protests, expanding discriminatory stop and search, introducing jail sentences and unlimited fines for demonstrating around national infrastructure and new offences for locking on will not help my constituents pay their bills or indeed address many of the issues that they will tend to protest about. This is yet another bill which seeks to stop people making their voices heard and disadvantages our poorest and most marginalised communities. Laws are not reasonable or fair if rights are protected only for those who agree with the government and curtailed for people who wish to challenge it. So I agree with the Honourable Member for Paisley and Renfrewshire when she spoke last week, and she coined it right by saying that we were sleepwalking into fascism. This country's tradition of dissent has paved the way to our rights and freedoms, and those protests are the reasons that someone of my class, race and gender has the rights that I have. But this bill contains measures that would have outlawed the protests that won votes for women and trade unions. And there is no doubt, in my mind at least, with this government trajectory, that these will be used against pickets in industrial disputes. Whilst the bill says there's actually going to be a defence when it comes to trade disputes, this defence is not going to be available to prevent the new serious disruption prevention orders for individuals who take part in more than one protest within a 5-year period, even if they haven't been convicted. This obviously targets union officials who regularly attend and organise pickets. And with the Trade Union Act, the Policing, Crime and Sentencing Act, and everything else in between, and now this bill, you've all but eradicated what was already a severely restricted right to picket. Our unions are part of the last line of defence against this government's attack on working class people, and I cannot believe that the government would stoop this low. Madam Deputy Speaker, it's wrong that this bill extends stop and search powers and introduces new serious disruption orders when existing stop and search powers are already a key component of the racially unjust criminal justice system. Marginalised communities are already disproportionately likely to face criminalisation and harassment. Just last month, there was a national outcry when it emerged that a black teenager had been strip searched by police at school, having been falsely accused of possessing cannabis. And there's been a string of revelations about the racism and misogyny that still blights UK policing, clearly exampled in the vile racism and misogyny uncovered in the Charing Cross police station and the already record low confidence in policing. I will give way.
Well, the Honourable Lady speaks about stop and search. She will know that in a 2-year period up until 2021, 150,000 arrests were made as a direct result of stop and search. She will know that in 2019, 50,000 knives were found and removed. Those are arrests that prevented crimes and knives that might have been used to take life or at least to injure. Surely, she recognises, stop and search is just part of the means by which we can crack down on crime.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I have no issue with evidence-based stop and search. If there is a reason to stop somebody, that's absolutely fine. Unfortunately, the police continue again and again to stop and search people from certain communities, and all that does is to continue to go down this route where confidence in policing is extremely low. That doesn't do anything to solve crime. And I want to continue to talk about misogyny as well, because I think about the horrifying treatment of those who attended the vigil in my constituency when they were commemorating and Sarah Everard and other women that had lost their lives to violence last year. And that made clear there that women opposing violence against women weren't safe from male violence, even from those who are tasked with protecting us from it. And this bill particularly targets, and have been mentioned many times, the activism groups of people like Extinction Rebellion, Just Stop Oil, Insulate Britain, Kill the Bill, and the Black Lives Matter movement, who have all used disruption to draw attention to major injustices like the climate crisis, attacks on our civil liberties, and institutional racism. Instead of taking action to address these injustices, the government wants to stop people speaking out about them. We have to remember that today's protests are signposts for tomorrow's progress. How does it make sense, Madam Deputy Speaker, for the government to support protests around the world whilst cracking down on the right to protest here? Amnesty International have clearly pointed out that these authoritarian provisions are similar to repressive policies in countries that the UK regularly criticises. Yes, Russia, Hong Kong and Belarus. And the message to the public is very, very clear that we have to put up with it or shut up. This continuous attempt to criminalise dissent is a threat to everyone who wants to stand up for what they believe in and anyone who believes in a better society. And the way that this government continues to push down this agenda, it's clearer than ever that we have to oppose this bill today and oppose all further attempts of the government to move forward with this authoritarian way of running this country.